High school is supposed to be simple. You wake up, survive another day, pretend you're fine, and go home. That was my life, quiet, predictable, invisible, until Noah Walker sat next to me in English class. He wasn't like anyone else, confident, kind, the kind of boy who didn't have to try to be seen. Everyone already saw him. I told myself it was just admiration, that I didn't really feel anything. But then he smiled at me, just once. And that was the moment everything changed, because no one tells you that falling for someone at 17 can feel like standing on a cliff, beautiful and terrifying all at once. And no one warns you how hard it is to hide a truth that won't stop burning inside you. If you've ever loved someone you could never tell, stay until the end. Because this story isn't about being seen, it's about finding the courage to stop hiding. High school hallways have a sound, a mix of sneakers squeaking on tile, lockers slamming, and laughter that somehow always makes you feel like it's about you, even when it isn't. For me, every morning felt like walking through static. People brushed past, talking about parties, sports, weekend plans, all that noise I didn't belong to. I was Eli Sanders, 17, the quiet one in the back row. The kid teachers forgot to call on, the one people remembered only when they needed a pencil. And then one morning he walked in, Noah Walker, transfer student. New face? The kind of boy who made silence feel different, heavier, charged. He wore a plain grey hoodie, sleeves pushed up to his elbows, headphones around his neck, like he didn't care if anyone looked at him. But everyone did, even me. Especially me. Mrs. Cooper, our English teacher, smiled when he walked to the front. Class, we have a new student joining us today. Noah, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? He hesitated, glancing around the room. Not much to say. Just moved here from Oregon. His voice, calm, deep, a little nervous, hit me harder than I expected. Welcome to Lincoln High, Mrs. Cooper said. You can take the empty seat next to Eli. My heart stuttered. He walked down the aisle, the strap of his backpack brushing my desk as he passed. He smelled like cold air and laundry detergent, clean, simple. He sat down beside me, and the world suddenly felt smaller. For the first 10 minutes, I pretended to focus on the poem Mrs. Cooper was analyzing. Something about love and loss and truth, ironic, considering my brain had stopped functioning the moment he sat down. He leaned toward me halfway through class. "Hey," he whispered. "What's the homework?" I turned, trying not to make eye contact. "Just pages 21 to 25. Thanks," he said, smiling. "I didn't even bring the book yet." "Great start, right?" I smiled back before I could stop myself. "Happens to everyone," he grinned. "You'd think I'd have learned how to transfer schools by now." His voice was soft but confident, like he'd already figured out who he was. And I hated how much I envied that. By the end of the week he was everywhere, cafeteria, library, the same bus route, even the corner seat in the cafeteria where I usually sat alone. He didn't ask, he just sat down one day, tray in hand like he belonged there. "Mind if I sit?" he'd asked. I shrugged. "Sure." After that he never sat anywhere else. He'd tell stories about Oregon, hiking trips, his dog, the rain that never stopped. I mostly listened, nodding, occasionally asking questions just to keep him talking. His laugh had this way of echoing even after it stopped. Sometimes I'd catch myself watching his mouth move and then panic, looking away so fast it hurt. One afternoon, we were the last ones in class after the bell. He was packing up slowly, flipping his notebook closed when he said, "You're quiet." I looked up. "Is that bad?" he smiled. "No, just rare. Everyone here talks like they're afraid the silence might eat them alive." I laughed softly. "Maybe it will." He tilted his head. "You like it, though?" "The silence." "Yeah," I said. "It doesn't expect anything." He nodded, thoughtful. "Guess that makes two of us." We stood there for a second too long, not moving, not talking, just knowing. Then someone burst through the door and the moment broke. He slung his backpack over his shoulder. "See you tomorrow, Eli." He said my name like he'd been saying it for years. By Friday, people had noticed. "Since when does Sanders have friends?" Someone muttered as we passed in the hallway. Noah heard it too. He stopped walking, looked back. but I grabbed his sleeve before he could say anything. "Don't," I whispered. "It's not worth it." He frowned but nodded. "You let people talk about you like that?"
I forced a smile.
"You get used to it." He studied me for a second, eyes soft. "You shouldn't have to." The way he said it made something twist inside me, a warmth I didn't know what to do with. That weekend, he texted me for the first time. I didn't even know he'd gotten my number. "Noah, you busy?" "Eli, not really." "Noah, you ever hang out outside of school?" "Eli, not much." "Noah, guess we're changing that. There's a fair in town. Meet me there tomorrow at 6. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Was it a friend thing or something else? I didn't know, but I typed back anyway. "Eli, okay." The fair was crowded, lights, noise, laughter everywhere. He found me near the carousel, hands stuffed in his hoodie pockets, smiling when he saw me. "Didn't think you'd actually come," he said. "Didn't think you'd actually ask." We walked for hours. Cotton candy, terrible music, cheap prizes. He talked, I listened. He laughed. I tried not to look like I was memorizing the sound. Then near the end of the night, we stopped at the top of the Ferris wheel. The city spread below us, lights like stars that had fallen too close. He looked at me, quiet now. "You ever tell someone something you shouldn't?" I swallowed. "All the time." "Like what?" "Like..." I hesitated, heartbeat in my throat. "Like maybe I like someone I shouldn't." He didn't look away. "Who says you shouldn't?" The ride jolted, making us both laugh nervously. But then he said something that froze me. "Whoever it is," he said softly, "they're lucky." I looked at him, really looked, and for a second I thought he knew. Maybe he did. The lights below blurred as the wheel turned again, carrying us back toward the ground, but something in me stayed up there, suspended, weightless, and completely on fire. Monday mornings were always cruel, but that one was worse, because I couldn't stop replaying the Ferris wheel in my head. The lights, his voice, that single sentence that wouldn't leave me alone. Whoever it is, they're lucky. I kept asking myself if he'd meant something by it, or if I just wanted him to. When I walked into class, he was already there. Hoodie off, white t-shirt, hair slightly messy like he'd slept through his alarm. He looked up, smiled, and that smile did what coffee never could. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I managed. He nudged my arm as I sat down. "You disappeared fast after the fair." "Yeah, sorry," I said. My mom texted. "You didn't have to leave like that." I hesitated. "I didn't know if you wanted me to stay." He frowned, confused. "Why wouldn't I?" I didn't answer. I just looked at the desk, pretending the doodles in the corner of my notebook were suddenly fascinating. By third period, I knew something had shifted between us. He kept finding excuses to talk. Small things, random comments, jokes whispered under his breath that made me laugh even when I tried not to. At lunch, he sat across from me as usual, but this time, his friends joined us, the kind of guys who lived in weight rooms and talked like the world owed them attention. "Yo, Walker," one of them said. "You hanging with the quiet kid again?" Noah didn't even look up from his fries. "Yeah, got a problem with that?" They laughed, not realizing he wasn't joking. "Didn't peg you for the charity type," another said. Something inside me snapped. "You know," I said quietly, "you don't have to talk to him like that." The table went silent. Noah looked at me, surprise flickering across his face. And something else, too. Pride, maybe. His friends just snickered and got up to leave. "See you around, Walker," one of them muttered. Noah turned back to me. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did." He smiled, small, real, the kind that made everything worth it. "Thanks." That afternoon it started raining, hard. By the time the last bell rang, the hallways smelled like wet asphalt and teenage impatience. I was stuffing my books into my bag when Noah appeared beside me. "You walking home?" "Yeah, in that," he said, glancing at the downpour outside. "I'll survive," he grinned. "Come on. My brother's got the car. I'm fine." "Don't make me beg, Sanders," I laughed. "You wouldn't." "Try me." So I went. His brother dropped us off at his house first, an old 2-story place on a quiet street. "You can wait inside," Noah said. "Rain's not stopping any time soon." I hesitated at the doorway. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, my mom's not home. Just me." He said it so casually, but my heart skipped anyway. Inside, the house was warm, pictures on the walls, the smell of coffee still lingering. He handed me a towel. "You're soaked." "Thanks," I said, drying my hair. He watched me, arms crossed. "You really don't talk much, do you?" I shrugged. "You talk enough for both of us." He laughed. Fair. We ended up in his room, which looked exactly how I imagined. Messy, lived in, somehow perfect. Posters on the wall, a guitar in the corner, unmade bed. He sat down, motioning for me to do the same. "You can relax, you know." "I don't bite." "Good to know," I said, trying to hide my nervous smile. He leaned back on his elbows. "You're weird." "Thanks. No, I mean it. You don't try so hard. Everyone else does." "Maybe I should," he shook his head. "Don't." The rain outside filled the silence. It was steady, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat between us. Then he said something that made everything inside me stop. "You know, when I first got here, I didn't think I'd find anyone worth knowing." I looked at him. "And now?" "Now I'm not sure what I'd do without you." He said it so simply, like it wasn't a big deal, like it didn't rearrange every piece of me. I laughed, but it came out shaky. "You'd be fine," he smiled faintly. "You think so?" "Yeah." He looked down, fidgeting with the bracelet on his wrist. "You really don't get it, do you?" "Get what?" He looked up, meeting my eyes. "That you're the first person who actually sees me." The air between us thickened. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. So I did the only thing I could. I stood up. "I should go," he blinked. "Now?" "Yeah, the rain's not that bad anymore." He stood too. "Eli, wait." But I was already at the door. I walked home fast, water soaking through my sneakers, rain mixing with tears I didn't want to admit were there, because I knew what he'd meant. And worse, I knew what I'd felt. He wasn't just a friend anymore, and that terrified me. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. The way he looked at me, the sound of his voice saying, "You're the first person who sees me." Around midnight, my phone buzzed. "Noah, you okay?" "Eli, yeah." "Noah, you sure?" "Eli, just tired." "Noah, you ran out of here like I said something wrong." "Eli, you didn't." "Noah, then why'd you leave?" I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Eli, because you make it hard to breathe." I deleted it before sending. Instead, I typed, "Eli, I just needed air." He replied almost instantly. "Noah, I get it, but for what it's worth." I meant everything I said. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I was too afraid that if I did, I wouldn't stop. And somewhere between the rain and the silence, I realized something painful and true. Sometimes the person who saves you is also the one you're not supposed to fall for. And I was already falling. By Wednesday, I'd convinced myself I was fine, that I could look at Noah and not feel everything at once, that the words he said, "You're the first person who sees me," were just friendship. Nothing more, but when he walked into class, wet hair from the drizzle outside, hoodie half-zipped, eyes locking with mine, like we shared a secret, I knew I was lying to myself. "Hey," he said softly, sliding into his seat. "Hey! You disappeared again after school yesterday." "Had to study," I said. He smirked. "You study? You already know every answer. Guess that means I don't need distractions." He laughed quietly. "Ouch." I smiled, pretending it was just banter, pretending that his voice didn't do something strange to my chest. Mrs. Cooper had us working in pairs that day. Of course, she paired me with Noah. The assignment was simple. Annotate a short story, analyze the theme of unspoken love. Irony, I thought bitterly. Noah scooted his chair closer. "So, unspoken love," he said, reading the title aloud. "That's depressing." "Maybe," I said, "but it's real." He looked at me, curious. "You ever had that?" I froze. "Had what?" He smiled faintly. "Love you couldn't say out loud." My throat tightened. "I think everyone has. Not me," he said, leaning back. "If I liked someone, I'd tell them." I looked down at the paper. "That's brave," he shrugged. "Maybe stupid." We worked in silence after that, or tried to. Every time his hand brushed mine, reaching for the pen, my heart jumped. Once his knee bumped my leg under the desk, and neither of us moved away. When the bell rang, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for an hour. "Hey," he said, packing his things slowly. "You want to come by later? Help me with the essay part?" I hesitated. "Yeah, sure." He smiled, wide, genuine, and something in it felt like a promise. His house was quieter than last time. Rain again, soft against the windows. We sat on the floor beside his bed, books open, laptops glowing, dim light. He was sprawled out beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him. "So," he said, typing slowly, "you think unspoken love's real because some people are too scared to lose what they already have," I said. He looked up. "You mean friendship?" "Yeah," he nodded. "But doesn't that make it worse? Like you're stuck pretending forever?" "Maybe," I said quietly. "But sometimes pretending is easier than rejection." He studied me for a long time, really studied me, like he could see right through the layers I was hiding behind. Then, softly, he said, "What if pretending hurts more?" We didn't talk for a while after that. The only sound was the rain and the faint hum of my laptop. At one point he stretched, his arm brushing mine. It wasn't intentional, or maybe it was, but neither of us pulled back. I could feel his breath, slow and unsteady. He turned slightly, his voice barely a whisper. "You're shaking." "I'm not," I lied. "You are." He reached out and hesitant, unsure, and touched my hand. Just his fingertips. "Light, careful." The world stopped. I didn't move. Couldn't. He looked at me like he was searching for permission, like he was as terrified as I was, and then, just for a moment, his thumb traced over my knuckles. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. He whispered, "Eli." But before I could answer, before anything could happen, his phone buzzed on the floor. We both jumped. He pulled his hand back, grabbed the phone, read the message, and sighed. "My mom's on her way home," he said. His voice was normal again, steady. Mine wasn't. I nodded, closing my laptop fast. "Right, I should go." He stood, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, thanks for helping." I gave a quick smile that felt more like an apology. Any time. The walk home felt endless. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick, heavy, like it carried the echo of everything that almost happened. At one point I stopped under a streetlight, just breathing. My hand still tingled where he'd touched me. It wasn't much, a simple touch, but it changed everything, because now I knew. Whatever I felt wasn't just imagination. And worse, part of me was sure he'd felt it too. The next day he didn't show up to class. Or the next. By Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. I found him outside by the bleachers after school, sitting alone, staring at nothing. "You've been avoiding me," I said. He looked up, startled. "No, I haven't. You skipped 3 days," he sighed. "I just needed space." "From what?" "From us," he said. The word hit me like a punch. "There is no us," I said, defensive. He looked at me, eyes tired. "You're right. There isn't, and maybe that's the problem." I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. He stood up. "I like you, Eli. I don't know what to do with that, and I don't think you do either." The wind picked up, cold against my face. He continued, "You make me feel something I can't explain. And that scares me." Then he turned, walking away before I could stop him. That night I wrote a message. A long one. Everything I couldn't say out loud, but I didn't send it. I just stared at the words until the screen went dark. Because for the first time, I realized how much power silence really had, and how love, especially the kind you can't name, can break you without ever being spoken. By Monday, the silence between us had turned into something else, something loud enough for everyone to notice. He still sat beside me in class, but there was distance now. Not physical, emotional. His laugh came less easily. His eyes didn't linger the way they used to. It was like the touch had burned a line between us. Neither of us knew how to cross again. And in high school, silence doesn't stay private for long. It started small. A look here, a whisper there. By midweek, people were talking. I didn't know how it started. Maybe someone saw us walking home together, or maybe someone just decided we looked too close for comfort. By Thursday, it wasn't whispers anymore. 2 kids brushed past me in the hallway, one laughing, the other saying under his breath, "Guess Walker likes the quiet ones." I froze. Noah was a few lockers down, pretending not to hear. His jaw tightened, but he didn't say anything. When I walked over, he shut his locker hard. Don't! Don't what? Don't make it worse. You think I'm making it worse? He looked at me, eyes full of something I couldn't read. Anger, fear, shame, maybe all of it. You don't get it, Eli. Then explain it. He shook his head, grabbed his bag, and walked away. And for the first time since I met him, I didn't follow. Lunch was hell that day. People stared, some smirked, others whispered loud enough to be heard. I sat alone again, the way I used to, but it didn't feel the same anymore, because now there was someone missing from that empty seat across from me. Halfway through lunch, I looked up and saw him, sitting with his usual crowd, trying to laugh, trying to look like nothing had changed. But I saw it, the way he avoided looking my way, the way his smile didn't reach his eyes. That evening, my phone buzzed. Noah, you okay? I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Eli, are you? A pause. Then, Noah, people are talking. Eli, I know. Noah, I'm trying to stop it. Eli, you don't have to. Noah, I do. Eli, why? Another long pause. Noah, because I can't let them think it's true. That last message hit harder than anything anyone else had said all week. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again, deleted again. Finally, I turned off my phone and just sat there in the dark, because there it was, the truth I hadn't wanted to see. It wasn't the rumor that hurt. It was knowing he'd rather fight it than admit what we both felt. The next day, something snapped. During gym, one of the guys, Tyler, the same one who'd made jokes before, decided to push it further. As we changed in the locker room, he laughed loud enough for everyone to hear. Hey, Walker, your boyfriend's not here today? You lose him? The room erupted in laughter. I froze halfway through tying my shoes. Noah stood there, expression unreadable, jaw tight. Then, without warning, he slammed his locker shut so hard the sound echoed off the walls. Shut up, Tyler. Ooh, sensitive. Tyler grinned. Did I hit a nerve? Noah took a step closer, fists clenched. I said, shut up. Or what? You'll kiss me next? That was it. Noah shoved him hard. Tyler stumbled backward into a bench, eyes wide. The coach stormed in seconds later, yelling for everyone to back off. But all I could see was Noah's face, pale, shaking, furious, humiliated. He looked at me once before walking out, and in that look, there was something like regret. After school, I found him outside, sitting on the curb by the parking lot. You shouldn't have done that, I said quietly. He didn't look up. You think I care? You do, I said. You always do. He laughed, bitter sharp. You think I like this? Everyone's staring at us like we're some joke. It's not a joke, I said. At least, it isn't to me. He finally looked at me, eyes wet and angry. Then why does it hurt so much? Because you keep pretending it's not real. He stood, shaking his head. You don't get it, Eli. You can afford to be invisible. I can't. That one line broke something in me. Is that what this is about? I said. What people think. It's my whole life, he snapped. You don't know what it's like to wake up every day and fight just to stay who people expect you to be? Then stop pretending, I said softly. He looked away. I can't. Won't, I corrected. He didn't answer. We just stood, there in the fading sunlight, cars leaving one by one until the parking lot was empty. Then he said, barely above a whisper, you should stay away from me for a while. That night I wrote again, not a text this time, a letter. It started with his name and ended with everything I couldn't tell him in person. How I didn't blame him, how I understood. How I just wished he'd seen what I saw when he looked at me that first day. Not fear, not shame, but something real. When I finished, I folded the paper, tucked it inside my backpack, and decided I'd give it to him tomorrow. Except tomorrow came, and he didn't. He wasn't at school, Not in class, not at lunch, not anywhere. Rumor was he'd transferred again, gone without saying goodbye. I waited a week, hoping, checking my phone every night for a message that never came. And when I finally opened my bag and saw that letter still inside, untouched, I realized I wasn't invisible anymore. I'd been seen completely. And that was somehow worse. 3 months passed. Winter came, quiet and sharp, turning everything grey. By then, most people had forgotten the rumors. High school had moved on to new gossip, new names, new targets, but I hadn't. Every day I still looked at that empty desk beside me, the one that used to hold Noah's backpack, his crumpled papers, his easy smile. The one that used to feel like home. The space stayed empty. And so did I. I tried to fill the silence with other things. Music, homework, extra shifts at the coffee shop downtown. But no matter how many cups I served or songs I played, nothing replaced the sound of his laugh. Or the way his voice softened when he said my name. The letter I'd written him stayed folded inside my bag, edges worn. Words fading from being opened too many times. Sometimes I'd take it out just to remind myself that what we had was real, that I hadn't imagined the touch, the look, the almost, but I never sent it. I couldn't, because I didn't know where he was. It was a Friday evening when it happened. I was closing the shop, wiping tables, when my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. Just 3 words, "I'm sorry." I froze. My hands started shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. For a second, I thought it was a joke. Someone playing with me. But then another message came. Didn't know where else to reach you. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Eli, where are you? Noah, back in town. Just for the weekend. Eli, why? Noah, needed to see my dad. Eli, oh Noah, I shouldn't text you. Eli, then why are you? Noah, because I can't stop thinking about you. I stared at the words, breath caught in my throat. Eli, you disappeared. Noah, I know. Eli, you didn't even say goodbye. Noah, I couldn't. A pause. Noah, can we talk? One last time? I met him the next night, at the park near the old football field, where the streetlights flickered like they were too tired to keep burning. He was already there, standing by the swings, hands in his jacket pockets. The wind caught his hair, and for a moment it was like no time had passed at all. He looked older somehow. Not by much, but enough to make my chest ache. Hey, he said, voice soft. Hey, I answered. Neither of us moved closer. He took a breath. I didn't think you'd come. I almost didn't. Why'd you change your mind? I shrugged. Because part of me still hoped you'd explain. He nodded slowly. You deserve that. We sat on the swings, the metal chains creaking in the cold. For a long time, neither of us said anything. Finally, he spoke. When everything started, the rumors, the looks, I panicked. My dad's a cop, Eli. He's not the kind of guy who understands. I get it, I said quietly. You were scared, he nodded. Yeah, and the messed up thing is I was more scared of him than I was of losing you. So I ran, because I thought it'd be easier to disappear than to admit what I felt. I looked at him, really looked, the guilt in his eyes, the way his fingers gripped the chain tight, like he was afraid to let go. It wasn't easier, he said. It just hurt in a different way. I swallowed hard. You could have told me. I know. I waited for you. I know that too, he whispered. And I hate myself for it. The silence between us wasn't empty this time. It was full. Full of everything we'd never said. He finally turned to me. I read your letter. My head snapped up. What? You left it in your backpack that day. The day I left, I took it. I froze, heart hammering. You read it? He nodded. Every word. The world tilted. I didn't know whether to be angry or relieved. He smiled sadly. You wrote that I made you feel seen, but you did that for me too. You made me feel like I could stop pretending just for a second. I blinked back tears. Then why didn't you come back? He looked away. Because I wasn't brave enough. A gust of wind blew between us, cold and sharp. He stood slowly, stepping closer. But I want to be now. My pulse quickened. What does that mean? It means I'm done hiding. I shook my head. You don't get to say that now. Not after everything, he winced. I know. I just needed you to know the truth before I go again. I frowned.
Go where?
He hesitated. My mom's moving. Out of state. I'm going with her. The words hit like a punch. So this is goodbye, he nodded. Yeah. He took another step, close enough that I could see the reflection of the streetlight in his eyes. I'm sorry for what I did, he said. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I never stopped thinking about you. I wanted to be angry, to yell, to tell him he didn't deserve forgiveness. But all I felt was tired, and heartbreakingly grateful that he came back, even if it was too late. He leaned in, just slightly, like he wanted to hug me, but didn't know if he could. I took a breath. You should go, he nodded, blinking hard. Take care of yourself, Eli. You too. He turned and started walking toward the parking lot. I watched until the darkness swallowed him. For a second I thought he'd turn around. He didn't. I stood there long after he was gone, the swing creaking beside me, the sound of the wind carrying the echo of everything we never got to be. When I got home, I opened my notebook, and the same one from English class, and on the first blank page I wrote, "Some stories don't end. They just stop. And sometimes that's all the closure you get." Spring came early that year. The snow melted faster than usual, the trees bloomed too soon, and everything around me seemed to move on, while I still stood still. It had been 3 months since that night at the park, the night Noah came back just long enough to say goodbye again. I thought time would dull the ache, that it would fade into the background like a song you used to love, but some songs don't fade. They just play quieter. Every morning I still passed the classroom where we sat together. The same desks, the same sunlight spilling across the floor. The seat beside mine stayed empty. Nobody asked why. Nobody noticed. But I did. I always did. Mrs. Cooper gave us an assignment that week. Write an essay about something that changed you. Most people wrote about sports, family trips, or getting their first job. I sat in front of a blank page for hours. Every time I started, my throat tightened. Because the only thing that had truly changed me was something I couldn't name out loud. I thought about what he said that last night. I'm done hiding. He didn't mean it the way I wanted him to. But still, it stuck. Maybe being brave didn't always mean shouting your truth for the world to hear. Maybe sometimes it meant living with it quietly, without shame. So I wrote. I didn't write his name, but I didn't have to. I wrote about the way someone can enter your life quietly and still leave behind noise that never really stops. I wrote about seeing yourself through someone else's eyes for the first time and realizing you're not broken, just scared. I wrote about love that doesn't need to last forever to be real. When I finished, I didn't even read it over. I just turned it in, heart pounding, like confessing a secret to the universe. A week later, Mrs. Cooper asked me to stay after class. I froze, assuming I'd done something wrong, but she just smiled gently and handed me my paper. You have a way with words, Eli. Thanks, I mumbled. She hesitated before saying, you know, stories like this, they help people feel less alone. My throat closed. It's just an assignment, she shook her head. It's more than that. You wrote about love like someone who's known it and lost it. I didn't answer. I couldn't. She placed the paper on my desk, her voice soft.
Whoever it was.
I hope you know it was worth it. That night, I walked to the park again. It was warmer now, the swings creaking softly in the wind. The same place he said goodbye. The same quiet sky overhead. I sat on the swing where he'd sat, kicked off slowly, and let the motion take me somewhere else, somewhere between then and now. In my jacket pocket was the letter I never sent him. The one he'd read anyway. The edges were torn, the ink smudged, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Maybe some words aren't meant to be sent. Maybe they're meant to stay with you, to remind you that once you were brave enough to feel something that mattered. As I sat there, a car pulled into the parking lot. For a moment my heart jumped, stupid, instinctive, impossible hope, but it wasn't him. Just a family with kids, laughing as they ran toward the playground. I watched them for a while, smiling despite myself, because life doesn't stop for heartbreak. It just keeps going, quietly daring you to catch up, and maybe that's what healing really is, learning to walk again, even when part of you still wants to look back. By summer, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name in handwriting I recognized instantly. Inside was a single page. No greeting, no signature, just words that made my chest tighten. I read your essay. Mrs. Cooper sent it to me. She said she thought I should see it. I didn't know how to say thank you, so I'm saying it now. You were right. Pretending hurts more. I'm not ready to be who I am yet, but I'm getting closer. And when I finally stop running, I hope I find someone who sees me the way you did. I sat there for a long time, letter trembling in my hands. There was no return address, but I didn't need one. It wasn't an invitation. It was closure, and somehow that was enough. That night I went out onto the porch. The air smelled like rain again, the same smell as the day he first sat next to me in class. I looked up at the sky and whispered, "You don't have to find someone else. You just have to find yourself." It wasn't for him anymore. It was for me, because love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go and being grateful that for a brief moment you both existed in the same world. Months later, I saw his name again, tagged in a photo from another school. He was smiling, surrounded by new friends, sunlight on his face. He looked happy, and for the first time, instead of breaking, my heart felt light. He didn't owe me forever. He'd already given me something better, the courage to stop hiding. I closed my phone, exhaled and whispered, "Thank you." Then I opened my notebook, the same one that had started everything, and on the last page, I wrote, "He taught me that love doesn't always stay, but it always leaves something behind. Sometimes the people who hurt us aren't villains. They're just scared, like we were once. And sometimes the hardest part of love isn't losing it. It's learning to live with what it leaves behind. So if you've ever loved someone you couldn't keep, remember, it wasn't wasted. You were changed, and that means it mattered. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because somewhere, someone else needs to hear that love, even when it ends, is still worth feeling.